honesty is more than a virtue. For the Stoics, it is the foundation of strength, clarity, and authority over one's life. The ability to be truthful with oneself determines whether you live in alignment with reality or in conflict with it. Self-deception is the root of wasted time, failed ambitions, and fractured character. When you lie to yourself, you weaken the very foundation of your mind. When you confront truth, you create the conditions for real growth. This video is about reclaiming your power through honesty. It is about seeing yourself without filters and removing the excuses that keep you from rising to your potential. Each chapter offers a way to practice self-honesty as a tool for success, influence, and mastery of your own mind. The Stoics did not treat honesty as a passive quality. They saw it as active work, a daily discipline to align thought and action with reality. When you can look at yourself clearly, you can act clearly. When you can act clearly, you can achieve without the weight of self-imposed illusions. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Recognize the cost of self-deception. Self-deception is expensive. It costs time, energy, and opportunities. The Stoics taught that living in accordance with nature means living in accordance with truth. If your judgments are false, your actions will be misaligned. You may think you are making progress, but you are only running in place. To recognize the cost, begin with a careful and unhurried examination of your past choices. Look at situations where you ignored facts, minimized problems, or overlooked details you knew were important. Identify the points where you constructed explanations to protect yourself from a challenge, responsibility, or unpleasant truth. These moments consume energy, dilute focus, and prevent you from acting with full strength. Every time you hold on to a false belief, you slow your own development. Self-deception quietly chips away at self-confidence, making it harder to trust your own judgment when decisions matter most. Work through these instances one by one. Write down the event, the way you justified it to yourself, and the eventual consequences. Be specific, as vague notes will not reveal the depth of the problem. Notice how these self-deceptions affected your actions, delayed progress, or altered relationships. See whether they caused you to miss opportunities, postpone necessary action, or doubt your abilities. The first step toward gaining strength is to confront this list with complete honesty and patience. Review each entry carefully, resisting any temptation to soften the details or reinterpret events in a more favorable light. These records provide direct evidence of where you have weakened your own position and reduced your ability to achieve what you are capable of. They reveal the points where decisions were shaped by self-deception rather than clear judgment, and they map the gap between potential and actual performance. Study how each instance of dishonesty affected your direction, relationships, and momentum. Identify the opportunities that were lost, the actions that were delayed, and the credibility that was diminished. Note how these choices impacted your confidence and willingness to act decisively in later situations. The clearer this picture becomes, the more you will understand the actual cost of deceiving yourself. As your awareness deepens, a natural sense of urgency will develop, growing stronger each time you review these examples with clear eyes. You will begin to recognize that truth is not simply an admirable quality, but the structural base on which steady, purposeful action depends. It supports every effective decision you make, every relationship you maintain, and every goal you pursue. When you see how dishonesty has weakened results, damaged trust, and slowed progress, the choice to make truth central to your life takes on a different weight. It shifts from being a moral aspiration to becoming an essential condition for maintaining personal power, protecting your credibility, and sustaining growth over time. Living with truth at the center of your decisions becomes an act of preservation for your integrity, your discipline, and your ability to succeed in any field of life. Chapter 2. Practice brutal clarity. Honesty begins with clarity. Marcus Aurelius advised stripping away unnecessary impressions and seeing things as they are. This is not an abstract exercise. It requires you to describe your situation in the simplest and most direct terms possible. If you are underperforming at work, name it clearly and without hesitation. If you are avoiding a difficult conversation, state this fact plainly and acknowledge the avoidance for what it is. If you are pursuing a goal for reasons that do not align with your values, admit this directly. Be specific in your recognition and do not dilute the language with soft explanations. Avoid framing the truth in comforting terms that allow you to delay necessary action. The mind is skilled at creating elaborate justifications to preserve comfort, yet clarity comes only from stripping away these layers until what remains is simple and factual. To strengthen this skill, take time to write out your observations about your current challenges in the most direct language possible. Replace vague terms with exact descriptions. For example, rather than saying you are behind in your work, write that you have missed specific deadlines and outline the cause. This habit of precise naming forces your attention onto the real problem instead of a softened version of it. The practice of brutal clarity is a deliberate and disciplined act of self-respect. It is a conscious and ongoing choice to anchor yourself in reality instead of settling for a version of events that feels less threatening. It requires the courage to keep your eyes on the facts, even when those facts reveal uncomfortable truths about your performance, priorities, or habits. When you consistently commit to seeing your life as it actually is, you develop the ability to make targeted, informed adjustments that produce measurable results rather than cosmetic changes. This precision in both thought and action becomes a powerful tool for continuous improvement, because every decision you make is rooted in what is actually happening rather than what you wish were true. Practicing this level of clarity builds a sharper and more reliable sense of discernment. You begin to notice the smallest warning signs before they have the chance to grow into larger, more disruptive problems. This ability to detect early shifts allows you to make timely adjustments rather than reacting when it is already too late. You learn to identify patterns in behavior, outcomes, and environments that hint at deeper issues, and this awareness keeps you ahead of potential setbacks. Your responses become deliberate instead of reactive because you are working from a complete and accurate picture rather than an incomplete or distorted one. This practice trains your mind to operate from facts and verifiable information. It develops the discipline to examine situations closely before acting, to confirm what is real rather than relying on assumption or wishful thinking. You learn to slow down your conclusions until you have gathered enough accurate information to support them. This process builds a habit of questioning and verifying, which leads to more informed and deliberate decisions. Over time, this approach shifts the way you navigate challenges. You start to notice patterns in information and behavior that would otherwise go unseen. You recognize the early signs of potential problems, which allows you to address them before they escalate. You become less reactive to surface impressions and more focused on underlying realities. Your planning becomes more precise because you understand the actual conditions you are working within. Without clarity, progress drifts in ways that are often invisible until the consequences appear. You may begin tasks with energy, only to find yourself stopping and starting without completing what you set out to do. Time and resources are scattered across projects or goals that take you far from where you intended to go. You may return to the same mistakes repeatedly because the real causes remain unidentified and unaddressed. Opportunities may come into view and pass by unnoticed because your attention is fixed on incomplete or misleading information. This constant misalignment wastes effort and erodes motivation. Clarity stops this cycle by giving you a direct, unobstructed view of your environment and the challenges within it. When you act with clarity, each choice is based on verified facts and accurate understanding. This creates a foundation that supports deliberate, confident movement forward. You know which factors truly influence your situation, and you base your actions on them. This reduces hesitation because your path is built on evidence rather than on assumptions or vague impressions. It allows you to identify the most effective steps to take and to see the likely results before you act. Clarity also strengthens your adaptability. When conditions change, you can quickly adjust your approach because you understand the essential elements of the situation. This prevents wasted time on ineffective responses and helps you maintain forward momentum. Over time, working from this position of clarity compounds into significant advantages. Your actions become more efficient because they are tightly aligned with reality. Your results become more consistent because you have eliminated the guesswork that often leads to setbacks. Your sense of direction becomes steady because you are guided by truth rather than by shifting assumptions or momentary distractions. This is the kind of clarity the Stoics considered essential to living and acting with strength. Chapter 3. Confront your excuses. Excuses are a refined form of self-deception. They often sound reasonable on the surface, yet they mask an unwillingness to take full responsibility. They provide temporary relief from discomfort, but create long-term weakness. The Stoics viewed excuses as barriers to the development of character and as tools the mind uses to avoid necessary challenges. To remove their influence, you must train yourself to identify them in their many forms. Start by recording the explanations you most often give yourself for delaying action or avoiding difficult work. Do this without filtering or justifying. Include both the obvious ones and the subtle ones you may not question in daily life. Once you have your list, examine each reason closely. Ask whether it reflects an actual limitation or whether it is serving as protection from effort, uncertainty, or discomfort. This process forces you to separate genuine obstacles from manufactured ones. The act of confronting your excuses directly removes the influence they quietly exert over your decisions. Each time you expose an excuse to honest examination, it loses the power to guide your choices unnoticed. This process requires attentiveness because excuses often appear in subtle, reasonable forms that can be easy to accept. By bringing them into full view, you limit their ability to operate in the background of your thinking. Over time, this consistent exposure weakens their grip and makes them easier to dismiss. As you continue to dismantle your excuses, you train yourself to meet reality with fewer delays or diversions. You stop preparing alternate stories to make inaction feel justified, and you begin addressing situations with a straightforward approach. This develops a form of mental resilience that grows stronger with repetition. You become practiced at dealing with discomfort directly, and hesitation decreases because you have proven to yourself that you can act even when it is difficult. Replacing excuses with decisive action is more than a change in behavior. It is a long-term conditioning of your mind towards self-reliance and follow-through. Each time you choose to act, rather than retreat into avoidance, you give your mind proof that you can face challenges directly and handle the outcome. This proof compounds. It slowly replaces doubt with a steady confidence that you can rely on yourself when it matters. The experience of acting despite difficulty creates a track record you can reference in moments of uncertainty. It shows you that effort, even when imperfect, produces forward movement, while avoidance only prolongs the problem. The repetition of this choice builds momentum that extends far beyond the single action in front of you. Each deliberate step you take becomes part of a growing sequence, linking together into a record of persistence. These small but consistent actions begin to create a steady rhythm of progress. The sense of movement carries over into larger and more complex challenges, making them easier to approach with confidence. As you accumulate experience in meeting obstacles directly, your threshold for difficulty rises. Problems that once seemed intimidating start to feel like manageable tasks that can be worked through methodically. This accumulation of action gradually reduces the hold that fear and hesitation have over you. When faced with a new challenge, you no longer dwell on whether you can handle it. You have proof from your own history that you can take meaningful steps forward. The gap between deciding to act and taking action shortens. Each completed action reinforces the mental pattern that favors movement over delay, which steadily undermines the old patterns that fed excuses. As this pattern becomes established, the excuses that once slowed you down start to lose their influence. They may still appear, but you can identify them quickly and with precision. Their reasoning feels weaker because your history of taking action contradicts them. You have concrete proof from your own experience that forward movement is possible. This proof makes it harder for excuses to take hold. They move through your thoughts briefly, without distracting you from the work in front of you. Your focus shifts naturally toward the task itself. Instead of weighing reasons to delay, your attention stays on what needs to be done and how to do it well. This direct engagement allows you to work with greater depth and consistency. You are no longer splitting your energy between the action and the mental effort of justifying inaction. The result is higher quality work, delivered more steadily. Over time, this shift produces a lasting transformation in how you approach challenges. You create a dependable rhythm of action that others learn to expect, and that you can consistently trust in yourself. This pattern emerges from the repeated proof that you will engage with the tasks and decisions in front of you without delay or avoidance. It is built on the habit of addressing challenges directly and working them through to completion. Your responses become more uniform and stable because they come from a practiced process, shaped by experience and deliberate effort. This level of consistency forms a visible track record of reliability that strengthens your standing in any environment, whether professional, personal, or in the pursuit of long-term goals. As you continue reinforcing this pattern, your self-reliance grows in depth and stability. Every completed task becomes a concrete reference point that validates your ability to act and deliver. These moments accumulate into a personal history that confirms you can handle new demands effectively. You begin to face upcoming challenges with the expectation that you will make measurable progress. This expectation is grounded in the repeated evidence of your own actions, which builds a steady, quiet confidence in your ability to move forward under pressure. With this foundation, your decision-making process sharpens. You can identify the most critical steps in a situation more quickly because you have trained yourself to focus on essentials. You commit to these steps without prolonged hesitation, reducing the time between decision and execution. This ability to act decisively and follow through is supported by a mental discipline that keeps your attention on the work rather than on distractions. As this approach becomes ingrained, the alignment between your actions, your abilities, and your values becomes stronger, more stable, and more evident in everything you do. You begin to operate with a clear link between intention and execution, which creates a dependable rhythm in both your personal and professional life. Discipline and productivity shift from being occasional bursts of effort into a sustained and reliable way of functioning. This shift is reinforced through repeated cycles of planning, execution, and follow-through, each one building on the last. Your habits begin to carry the weight of intentional design, reflecting the standards you have chosen for yourself rather than random patterns of behavior. This level of alignment strengthens your reputation with others, as they can predict your reliability, and with yourself, as you come to trust your own commitment to action. The consistency that emerges becomes a defining asset, giving you the capacity to maintain progress in the face of challenges, recover quickly from setbacks, and keep moving toward your objectives. Over time, this alignment becomes one of your greatest strengths, supporting both your achievements and the integrity that sustains them. Chapter 4. Align words and actions. The Stoics valued integrity, the alignment between what you say and what you do. When your words and actions match, you become trustworthy to others and to yourself. When they diverge, you begin to doubt your own intentions. Start by reducing the number of promises you make and give full priority to honoring each one without exception. Make only the commitments you know you are prepared to carry through. This requires a pause before agreeing to anything, ensuring that you have both the intent and the means to act. Avoid committing to any change or responsibility unless you are ready to begin immediately. By following this discipline, you develop the habit of treating your own word as a binding agreement. This practice sharpens self-awareness. You become more deliberate in choosing what you will commit to, weighing each decision against your values, priorities, and available resources. You avoid scattering your focus across obligations that dilute your ability to follow through. As a result, every commitment you make carries weight and meaning, and each fulfilled promise strengthens the bond between your intentions and your actions. When your words consistently match your actions, you establish a durable base of credibility that others can clearly recognize. Over time, people notice that your commitments are honored without exception and that your statements are backed by tangible follow-through. This track record makes your word carry more weight in every interaction. The more consistent this pattern becomes, the more people are inclined to trust your intentions, accept your guidance, and work with you toward shared goals. Reliability in action naturally develops into a form of personal influence, because others know they can depend on you to deliver what you have promised. This alignment also strengthens your internal trust in a measurable way. Every time you fulfill a commitment, you add to a growing record that confirms you can rely on yourself to act, even when the circumstances are difficult, inconvenient, or require sustained effort. Each completed promise becomes a piece of evidence that you are capable of carrying through on your word. As this evidence accumulates, hesitation in decision-making decreases. You are no longer faced with the uncertainty of whether you will follow through. You already know you will, because you have proven it repeatedly in practice. This certainty allows you to commit to new challenges with greater confidence, knowing your actions will align with your intentions. As self-trust strengthens, your approach to responsibility becomes more deliberate and measured. You evaluate potential tasks with greater care, considering your skills, available resources, and current obligations before agreeing to take them on. This honest appraisal reduces the risk of spreading yourself too thin and ensures that the commitments you make are realistic and achievable. You begin to set clear boundaries around what you can and cannot do, which preserves the quality of your work and prevents unnecessary strain. By consistently making decisions from a place of accurate self-assessment, you increase the likelihood of fulfilling your promises without compromise. This clarity in judgment streamlines decision-making. You no longer spend excessive time questioning your ability to follow through, because you have trained yourself to commit only when prepared. The energy once lost to uncertainty and mental rehearsal is freed for meaningful execution. You can focus entirely on taking the necessary steps, adjusting as needed, and delivering results. Each successful follow-through becomes another confirmation that you can rely on yourself under varied conditions. As this pattern is reinforced, the habit of aligning word and deed begins to expand beyond individual tasks into a defining standard for your entire way of operating. It influences how you approach projects, relationships, and decisions both large and small. People begin to see that your commitments are made with genuine intent and supported by deliberate, consistent action. Your reliability becomes a visible hallmark of your character. This quality turns into a form of personal capital that extends into every part of your life. It enhances professional relationships, improves cooperation in teams, and deepens trust in personal connections. Colleagues, friends, and partners are more inclined to collaborate and support your initiatives because they have seen your dependability proven time and again. The more consistently you uphold this alignment, the more it weaves itself into your identity. It becomes part of how you are recognized and remembered by others. This level of consistency strengthens your influence as people learn that your word has real value and can be trusted without constant verification. It also reinforces your own confidence, as each fulfilled commitment further solidifies your belief in your ability to deliver under various conditions. Over time, this alignment between intention and action becomes the structural backbone of stability in your life. You develop a clear understanding of your own standards and what you can expect from yourself in any circumstance. This predictability reduces internal conflict and frees mental energy for purposeful action. Others come to rely on your steadiness, which strengthens bonds of trust and respect. These relationships grow more resilient because uncertainty about your intentions is removed. By consistently removing uncertainty in your dealings, you create an environment where trust thrives. This trust is not fragile. It is built on a record of actions that match words over time. Such a foundation supports the pursuit of long-term goals, as both you and those around you know that discipline and consistency will sustain your efforts. Ultimately, the connection between what you say and what you do evolves from a guiding principle into a functional system for building strength, credibility, and lasting success. Chapter 5. Use reflection as a mirror. The Stoics practiced daily reflection as a disciplined method to examine life in the light of their guiding principles. This practice functions as a mirror, allowing you to see with precision where your conduct has stayed true to your values and where self-deception has been allowed to take root. It demands that you step outside the continuous motion of daily life to study your actions with detachment and objectivity. Without this deliberate pause, you risk passing through each day without recognizing the motives, impulses, and misjudgments that influence your choices and shape your habits over time. Dedicate a specific time each evening to review the events of your day. Treat this as a structured and non-negotiable practice, not a task to do only when convenient. Approach it with focused intent. Ask direct and probing questions. Did my actions reflect what I know to be right? Did I allow comfort, fear, or convenience to alter my decisions? Did I maintain the standards I claim to hold in every situation? The aim of these questions is to achieve clarity. They are not meant to punish or criticize, but to bring the truth of your actions into focus so you can understand them without distortion. Over time, this regular reflection will reveal patterns in both your thinking and your behavior. You will begin to see specific choices that repeatedly slow your progress or weaken your resolve. You will also identify habits that strengthen your discipline and reinforce your principles. This awareness equips you to anticipate situations where you may be tempted to compromise your values. You can then prepare deliberate, thoughtful responses before those situations occur, giving yourself an advantage. Reflection also highlights moments when you acted with integrity, offering clear examples you can draw on to maintain confidence in your principles. By using reflection to compare your daily conduct with your highest standards, you steadily close the distance between your intentions and your actions. This process works best when approached methodically, reviewing each decision in light of the principles you claim to uphold. Over time, the difference between what you aim to do and what you actually do becomes smaller. This is the foundation of living with consistency and integrity. Through this review, small deviations are identified early, giving you the opportunity to correct them before they take root as fixed habits. You can see where your behavior begins to drift from your standards and redirect yourself quickly. This reduces the risk of allowing small compromises to turn into long-term weaknesses. Regular adjustment based on these observations creates a habit of self-correction that improves stability in your actions. This continual refinement strengthens your ability to respond to challenges with steadiness. You approach obstacles with an understanding of how you have acted in similar situations before, which allows for deliberate and consistent responses. Instead of relying solely on emotion or impulse, you make choices informed by your own observed patterns. This heightened awareness of the forces influencing your decisions, whether they are rooted in fear, habit, or distraction, enables you to maintain control and act with precision. Reflection also changes the way you engage with your own experiences on a fundamental level. Each event, decision, and interaction is no longer something that simply happens and fades into the background. You treat them as raw material that can be examined, learned from, and used to shape future behavior. You begin to approach the day with the understanding that everything that occurs holds potential value for your growth if you are willing to analyze it. This mindset keeps you from moving through life on autopilot. It trains you to look for the lessons embedded in both successes and failures, and to extract those lessons in a way that can be acted upon. Every day becomes a structured learning opportunity. Small moments, such as a conversation with a colleague or a missed opportunity to speak up, are given the same level of attention as major events. You examine them for patterns, what you did well, what could have been improved, and how your choices aligned with your standards. Over time, this habit of turning daily experience into a source of instruction builds a deeper connection between your actions and your intentions. Self-awareness becomes more than knowing how you felt in a given moment. It becomes an active process of interpreting events and using those interpretations to make better decisions going forward. When practiced consistently, reflection develops into a personal discipline with significant influence over your behavior. It becomes a regular check on whether you are truly living according to your principles. Each review session reminds you of the standards you have set for yourself and makes it harder to drift away from them unnoticed. By continually measuring your actions against your values, you reinforce the importance of alignment between belief and behavior. This process strengthens integrity by creating a visible and felt link between what you claim to stand for and how you actually conduct yourself. It also sharpens your sense of direction. You see more clearly how the decisions you make each day fit into the broader picture of your life. This clarity allows you to prioritize more effectively, choose actions that contribute to long-term objectives, and avoid those that distract from them. Over time, the combination of daily analysis, consistent self-correction, and alignment with personal values creates a foundation of stability. You operate with greater confidence in your ability to manage challenges, adapt to changes, and stay committed to what matters most. This steady alignment between belief and action shapes a life characterized by clarity, discipline, and self-command. Chapter 6. Remove the illusions that weaken you. Illusions are the comforting but false beliefs that distort your perception of reality and influence the way you think, decide, and act. They can involve your self-image, your abilities, your perceived limitations, or your understanding of how the world works. These illusions are formed from a mix of wishful thinking, selective attention to information, and a reluctance to confront situations that may be uncomfortable. They may arise from cultural conditioning, past experiences, or repeated patterns of avoidance. The Stoics recognized that illusions block genuine growth because they create a false framework for living, which prevents you from engaging directly with the truth and making progress based on reality. The first step in removing illusions is to identify them clearly. Begin by questioning your most basic assumptions about yourself and your circumstances. Write them down so they can be examined in detail. Ask, what do I believe about my capabilities, my limits, and the opportunities available to me? Which of these beliefs are supported by evidence, and which rest on assumptions I have never tested? Look closely at areas where you lean on optimism without developing concrete plans, or where you label repeated setbacks as successes without addressing their underlying causes. Each of these patterns conceals important truths that must be faced if you want to advance. Once you identify an illusion, take a structured approach to dismantling it. Begin by breaking it down into its underlying assumptions. Identify the specific beliefs, ideas, or conclusions that have supported it, and record them in detail so they can be examined one by one. Seek to replace each assumption with information that is concrete, measurable, and grounded in observation or proven results. This prevents the illusion from reforming in the same shape later. Gather feedback from reliable and straightforward sources, individuals who have consistently observed your behavior and performance in real situations. Choose people who can provide specific, concrete examples rather than vague opinions. Ask them to describe moments where your perception of your skills, decisions, or results might differ from what they saw. Request that they reference particular tasks, situations, or outcomes so you have a factual basis for comparison. Then, set these observations against hard evidence such as measurable results, project completions, deadlines met, quality standards achieved, or quantifiable performance metrics. Look for repeated patterns where your self-assessment diverges from the facts, as these patterns often point directly to underlying illusions. After gathering this information, examine in detail the situations where your expectations failed to match actual results. Review them step by step to uncover the exact points where the disconnect occurred. Identify whether the gap came from overestimating the potential success of a plan, failing to prepare thoroughly, misunderstanding the demands of the task, or ignoring external variables that significantly shaped the outcome. In some cases, several of these factors may have worked together. Document what you expected, what actually occurred, and the contributing factors that influenced the result. This record will allow you to trace the illusion back to its origin, giving you a clear understanding of how it formed. With this understanding, you can take deliberate measures to prevent the same distortion from influencing your thinking in future decisions. Use these findings to reconstruct your understanding so it reflects actual working conditions with clarity and accuracy, removing reliance on imagined scenarios or untested assumptions. Begin by re-examining each of your planning habits to ensure they are grounded in verifiable evidence. Test your assumptions with measurable data before treating them as a foundation for decisions. This includes confirming that your timelines are realistic, your resources are sufficient, and your skill level matches the requirements of the task. Doing so prevents wasted effort and avoids pursuing goals that are unsupported by fact. Integrate lessons from past experiences directly into your planning process. Keep detailed records of what worked, what failed, and why. Analyze these past outcomes to identify recurring patterns Then apply that knowledge to strengthen future strategies. This disciplined approach not only protects you from repeating mistakes, but also accelerates improvement by building on proven methods. Over time, this repeated process changes the way you see your own abilities. It sharpens your understanding of the environments you work within and helps you anticipate the real challenges you are likely to face. Once illusions are removed, your ability to plan, prioritize, and evaluate work shifts to a higher level of effectiveness. Each goal you set is based on proven abilities and anchored in realistic constraints. You eliminate the vague and overly ambitious targets that once drained time and energy. Planning now becomes a process of aligning resources, skills, and timeframes with what is both possible and measurable. Your benchmarks for tracking progress are now grounded in evidence, giving you a clearer view of whether your efforts are producing the results you intended. With this clarity, you can channel more focused effort into strengthening your most effective qualities. You will identify where you have consistently demonstrated skill and direct resources toward refining and expanding those areas. At the same time, you can address weaknesses early, taking corrective measures before they develop into fixed obstacles. This dual focus, building strengths while actively improving weaker areas, creates steady forward momentum and increases your adaptability in complex situations. This change also has a profound impact on resilience. When the need to protect a false self-image is removed, a significant amount of mental and emotional energy becomes available for more productive purposes. This reclaimed energy can be directed toward addressing real issues, developing practical solutions, and improving adaptability when unexpected situations arise. The mind becomes clearer because it is no longer occupied with maintaining appearances. As a result, you are able to channel your focus into actions that produce tangible results. Your responses to challenges draw from careful analysis, prior experience, and proven methods, allowing you to respond with efficiency and accuracy. Decisions are made with greater confidence because they are grounded in established facts and realistic assessments of the situation. This state of clarity also reduces the likelihood of becoming stalled when facing uncertainty. Instead of hesitating or being overwhelmed by indecision, you move forward by evaluating the facts available, determining the most logical course of action, and executing it without delay. This makes your recovery from setbacks faster and your overall approach to problem-solving more proactive. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to refine your strategies and improve your systems for dealing with adversity. Over time, this disciplined approach transforms your focus and direction. Your attention shifts almost entirely to objectives that can realistically be reached and maintained. Every decision you make is supported by solid reasoning, and each action you take is deliberate and purposeful. You begin to operate with a consistent structure that aligns short-term actions with long-term outcomes. Planning becomes sharper, execution becomes more efficient, and evaluation becomes more precise. You are no longer moving through life with an unclear sense of direction. Instead, you have developed a reliable plan supported by a clear set of guiding principles that keep you consistently oriented toward your chosen goals. This plan acts as a framework that informs your daily decisions and shapes your long-term strategies. Your guiding principles serve as a constant reference point, ensuring that even when circumstances shift, your sense of direction remains stable. You can make course corrections with precision because you have established systems for monitoring your progress and accurate feedback on your current position in relation to your objectives. This allows for timely adjustments before small deviations grow into major setbacks. It also enables you to allocate resources more effectively and maintain momentum even in changing conditions. This clarity transforms how you experience progress. You no longer wander between competing priorities. Instead, each choice contributes directly to your overarching objectives. You operate with purpose in both short-term tasks and long-term pursuits, reducing wasted effort and avoiding distractions that do not serve your goals. This is similar to replacing an outdated, inaccurate map with a modern, highly detailed chart that marks every landmark, obstacle, and potential route. With such a tool, you can navigate with confidence, anticipate potential challenges, and take the most direct, efficient path toward your destination. This deliberate navigation increases your chances of achieving your goals in a way that is sustainable, consistent, and free of unnecessary detours or wasted effort. Chapter 7. Turn truth into power. Truth has little impact if it is only observed without being put into action. The Stoics regarded knowledge of truth as merely the beginning, a foundation upon which strength is built through its consistent application. Real power is developed when truth becomes the guiding principle for daily decisions and actions, influencing both immediate choices and long-term strategies. Start by deliberately linking every insight you gain from self-honesty to a concrete, specific action that can be carried out and measured. Recognize that an insight has no power if it remains only in thought. The moment you notice a truth about yourself, whether it relates to a habit, a repeated mistake, or an overlooked strength, assign it a corresponding action step. If you realize you have been postponing a critical task, assign it a clear deadline and schedule it into your day or week. Break it into smaller steps if needed to make the commitment manageable. Once scheduled, hold yourself accountable to complete it as planned. When you discover habits that reduce your focus or weaken your discipline, take proactive steps to replace them. Identify what triggers the habit and plan alternative responses that align with your goals. For example, if you find yourself wasting time on unproductive distractions, introduce structured work intervals or time limits to channel your attention. Keep the replacement habit specific, measurable, and trackable so you can assess whether it is producing improvement. Treat each insight as a direct call to action and resist the tendency to delay implementation. This ensures that awareness is converted into behavior that produces visible results rather than remaining an abstract recognition. Use truth as a consistent filter for your decision-making. For every opportunity, request, or possible direction, examine whether it aligns with your proven skills, your core values, and your current objectives. When the alignment is strong, commit with decisiveness and follow through. When it is weak or absent, practice the discipline of refusal to safeguard your time, energy, and focus for pursuits that are genuinely important to your progress. This filtering process allows you to navigate choices efficiently and avoid scattering effort across activities that do not serve your larger purpose. The consistent practice of acting on truth creates a momentum that carries forward into every area of life. Each time you make a decision based on truth and follow through on it, you reinforce your belief in your ability to judge situations accurately and act decisively. Every kept commitment serves as evidence to yourself that you can rely on your own word. Over time, these repeated demonstrations of follow-through strengthen your self-image as someone capable of meeting challenges directly. Discipline becomes easier to maintain because your actions confirm your capacity to uphold it. Hesitation diminishes as your record of decisive, truth-based action grows. This repeated cycle sharpens your clarity of direction, improves the quality of the decisions you make, and increases your control over how you navigate challenges and opportunities. As this habit becomes deeply rooted, it transforms the way you approach both short-term and long-term goals. You operate with an increasing sense of structure, knowing that your past actions provide a tested method for moving forward. You trust that decisions grounded in truth will keep you aligned with your objectives, making it easier to focus on meaningful work and ignore distractions. This consistency allows you to identify priorities quickly, take action without prolonged deliberation, and keep projects and commitments moving forward without unnecessary delays. Over time, the effect of this approach compounds. The actions you take, anchored firmly in truth, consistently generate measurable and positive results. These results provide proof that your method works, deepening your commitment to maintaining alignment between your choices and reality. This feedback loop, truth informing action, action producing results, and results reinforcing truth, becomes self-sustaining. It builds a foundation of personal strength that is stable, dependable, and difficult to shake, even under pressure.